there's a reason why there's like business people that run these companies and not just like armchair quarterbacks.
There's a reason we do it on a podcast and actually don't get paid to talk about our theories.
It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate, oh yeah.
Hello everyone and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris Dillard.
And my name is Mike Royer.
Oh, man, is it? Yeah, almost had me there. I thought you were going to say something else. This week, we're watching the newest MODOK series.
MODOK. Do you know what MODOK stands for?
No. Actually, I do, but yeah. We'll talk about it. We'll say what it stands for. Marvel is recording some future-based podcasts. What's this mean? It was announced yesterday on a Saturday. I'm like, that's the worst time to announce a podcast, but that's fine. We'll move along. We both saw Army of the Dead. We're going to review it later in the show. And more.
And more. I might sound a little raspy today on the podcast because I went out into the real world, hung out with some other fully vaccinated friends at an outdoor tiki bar. So we had a good time. There was some hooping. There was some hollering. There were some very strong, deceptive tiki drinks because they just start pouring rum, and then they're like, okay, well, this is just rum in a glass. What do we do now? And it's like, well, let's just disguise it with all the fruity tropical juices that we have available. And then you start drinking it, and you're just like, this is delicious. I'll have another one. Yes, please. So a little raspy today, but I've recovered. It's a good thing that we're recording in the afternoon for me and not the AM. So
I can tell what. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I just feel a little bit more human. It's the first time I've done anything like this in like a year and a half, and it kind of made me think. Just before we recorded, I was like, I feel like we need to retire the title of the Quarren Stream. I feel like, you know, even though the pandemic is still, you know, raging in other parts of the world, you know, a lot of people have moved beyond the whole concept of quarantining, especially since there's like a vaccine now. You know, people should still be taking precautionary measures. But like, yeah, I think the title of the Quarren Stream needs to change. And I think we're just going to kind of just go back to a less fun but more generic name of just like what we've been watching. So yeah, just getting back out into the world, making me feel normal and human. I was just like, yeah, we can't just keep calling it the Quarren Stream.
Yeah, I mean, we're working on it. I was gonna say before you jumped in that, I can tell what day it's gonna be if you message me either at noon my time or 4 in the afternoon my time. And it was a 4 in the afternoon one, kind of those days. So
yeah, sometimes it's just like, do we have something that we have to do later today? Like, I better reach out to Chris early. I don't know what he's doing. He's always got something going on. But if anybody out there has any fun names that how we should rename the Quarren Stream, like we could continually rename it. We could name it seasonally. We could name it based off of like the next kind of big like Marvel movie that's coming out or like superhero title. You know, if anybody has anything that kind of encompasses the same type of feeling. But right now we're just sticking with what we're watching. So
that's all I can come up with.
If you, the audience, wants to jazz it up, let us know.
Yeah, and then on that note, again, like we've talked about, I am moving this week. So literally, from the past 2 weeks, my house has just been. I mean, Mike saw it today for the first time. My room's empty here. My office that is usually to the brim with Funkos. It's just gray walls.
I do appreciate that you are scheduling this whole gigantic move of moving between houses in the middle of the week so it doesn't interrupt the podcast.
I specifically told everyone we can't do this on a weekend. We have to do it during the week. So that's what we're here to do. So, but yeah, so let's doing that. The first thing I did was schedule my internet installation. I have a whole week to make sure this is perfect. But next week is a 3-day weekend. It's a holiday weekend. It's Memorial Day weekend here in the States. So you may see us come up Sunday night. You may see us Monday night. It all depends on what we're doing next week and how we're feeling. If Mike is going out in the world and getting rowdy again, we're not. So.
Chris, I'm going to a thing next Sunday. You know, it's outdoors. It's safe. Everybody has to be vaccinated to go. But it is luau theme, so I just cannot escape this style of gathering this month. So I could be equally as raspy next week, but I'm just glad You got to go get that vaccine, people. Go get it. Go get jabbed in the arm. You won't feel it at all. It's great. It's like a selection bias, right? Everybody out there is reporting all of these bad side effects that they get from shot 1, shot 2, Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, whatever. And like when nobody feels anything, they don't feel the need to let people know. So I had like almost no side effects from any of them. Like I got my knees got like a little creaky, which was just almost kind of fun.
You're old.
It was it was just almost kind of like funny to me because like the rest of my constitution was totally fine, but like for 24 hours, like my knees just felt creaky after the second Pfizer shot, which I just thought it was just entertaining as much as it immobilized me. But you're gonna be totally fine. Go get the vaccine. Go get the shot. And then we can all go back to our normal lives of drinking Mai Tais.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. We can do that. I mean, I had to get a root canal a week and a half ago. I think that was more painful than this. So we gotta. Yeah, you pick and choose, but I'm currently, like I said, in an empty house. But we're gonna go ahead and get this because I've not been able to watch a whole lot. I think when I sit down for dinner, which we haven't been able to cook because all of our pots and pans are packed up in the garage in a box. So are the plates. So we've been kind of ordering out excessively, which I hate. But you got to do what you got to do. We've been watching. I've been trying to crank through the series of regular show. I missed the last 2 seasons whenever it was airing. So thankfully I have right now 3 subscriptions to HBO Max. I counted. One I was paying for originally, one that's free with my phone, and one that's free with my new internet service. So
what's your new internet service again?
It's AT&T fiber.
AT&T, gotcha. I mean, a word of the wise to people out there who have a Spectrum. I didn't realize this until we just moved, but when you do a change of address on Spectrum, they create a brand new account for you. So I had to go in, log in, make like a new account. I mean, the only upside of all of this is you get a new promotional rate. So now my internet is like $25 cheaper a month for a year, which is really, really great. But for like the last 3 weeks, I was like, logging into my Spectrum account and it says it doesn't say I owe any money and it still has our old address on here. What gives? So I had to call somebody and they're just like, yeah, you gotta make a new account. You were supposed to pay us a week ago. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. I didn't know. So word of the wise out there, if you got Spectrum, if you're changing addresses, they're making you a new account.
Well, that's the funny thing because I called them first because that's what I currently have. They were like, your rate's actually going to go up, but you can bundle it with TV and pay more, but get your internet price will be less, but you'll have to add TV, so you'll be paying more. I'm like, this makes no sense. Yeah, your math is bad, so I'm going to go to the cheaper rated place. But I'm excited to try that 1 gig up and 1 gig down line.
Ooh, delicious.
Very much so. It's going to be great. This this podcast will almost be the next level, if you will.
Yeah, that's well. I mean, really, on a practical sense, I mean, if the upload speeds are going to be so much better, you're going to be able to get stuff on YouTube and our podcast feed much faster.
Yeah, exactly. That's you have no idea how long that takes, but yes, yes, very much so. But yeah, so we'll be doing that. So send good thoughts my way this week as we do this literally on the hottest day of the year so far. It'll be 90 degrees and sunny when we're when we're with the movers.
Oh Lord, drink lots of water, Chris.
I always do. Got those smart bottle
mystery waters. Flavored water only though. It's got to be mystery flavored, and to fill in the rest of the audiences, Chris and I are always exchanging pictures of snacks that we find at stores, and
way more than superhero stuff.
He's just been finding a runner of mystery flavored snacks. I mean, I always fall for it too. It's like the mystery sucker and the bag of suckers. Everybody wants it. You don't even care what it is. It's just you just going in blank, and it's fun.
And literally, it's probably another flavor they already have. They just let's do a promotion because I've got mystery. Well, I was going to say I got mystery flavored Twizzlers, mystery flavored icy push pops, and then they're coming out with mystery flavored Pop Tarts.
Yeah, I think also psychologically, there are a certain percentage of mystery flavored snacks that if it's a candy, it's always white. They don't want to add a color to it to kind of influence what the mystery might be. I feel I've always just white flavored candies because it's usually a pineapple or a coconut or something like that, and I like that tropical stuff. Calling back to the tiki drinks earlier.
It makes me think of mystery airheads.
Yeah,
because they're always white. But also I'm just gonna go ahead and got my water right here. Get that nice tape there. I got peach Perrier, Mike. Some peach spicy water, if you will, for this show. Chris. I know. Oh yeah.
Ooh, that's good tape. That's good audio, Chris.
ASMR here for people who enjoy sparkling water. But let's jump into this. What we're watching. What I watched this week. It will cover the end caps of our episode, if you will, the news section. So go ahead and jump in with these recaps of shows. Have you finished Invincible yet?
Oh, I'm getting closer. I watched 2 more episodes this week, and this show's great. I love it. I love knowing that like no character is safe. Don't blink, or somebody that you thought, was okay is now like literally squished and there's like blood all over the place. I was talking to my wife and I was explaining it to her. It's like, I feel like the writer's room goes into this show writing something that they don't really necessarily intend to be animated, right? They know that they don't really have any limitations, but they don't write it like they're writing something that's animated. They don't perceive the thought that their audience is just going to be like kids or like young adults or anything like that. They're like, let's just write a really like compelling like superhero drama, and it just happens to be animated. And the episodes, like we mentioned before, are like 40 minutes long, so you kind of do get some like animation shortcuts every once in a while, but it's kind of one of those things that you see often with anime as well. Like if you're watching an episode of anime and you're like, well, they're just standing around doing a lot of talking, ain't a whole lot happening in this episode, what's going on? It's like, oh, because they're saving all of their pencil mileage for a crazy action scene that's going to happen later in the episode. And Invincible is kind of like a similar way. No spoilers, but I did just watch an episode where there was lots of viscera, blood, a lot of brutal damage happening. So they do a really good job leaving you on cliffhangers. There's kind of like little after credit stingers that make you want to jump into the next one. So I'm having a great time with it. The voice cast is great. Last time I brought up all of these, J.K. Simmons, Stephen Yeun, but like I really love Walton Goggins' character. He's kind of like the Nick Fury-esque character in this world, and he's doing a really great job. So Invincible has been great. I've only watched like one other episode of Jupiter Rising.
Ascending? Jupiter's Legacy. God damn it.
Jupiter's Legacy. I can't get this right. Jupiter's Legacy. I watched one other episode, which was kind of cool because it took the perspective of kind of like a villain side of some of these characters, so that was pretty cool. But it's really hard. I get confused with the storylines when jumping back and forth because there are so many similarities, to the point of there's an ongoing villain in Invincible that kind of is like this big, bald, brute kind of character that clones himself. And then in the Jupiter show, there's a character that mysteriously kind of gets cloned, and they don't know how it happened, and they look very similar. So I just get confused when I watch two of them concurrently. But I think I could still recommend both of those shows. And then in between all of that, I'm still moving my way and watching Smallville. It's been fun seeing the different storylines that they're going down. The emotional ties between Lex Luthor and Clark Kent grow deeper and stronger and more mysterious, but it's been fun.
Yeah. It was last week was 10 years since the series ended. Was last week. It was in my show notes. I don't think we talked about it because you didn't talk about the show, but it is a decade. So it's 10 seasons long, and now it's 10 seasons out. So you're like at that like point where you've been out as long as it existed kind of thing right now. So it's an interesting, I guess, crossroads for the show.
It's exciting watching the show because I know it's so long and there's so many seasons and there's so much train track ahead of me that I'm just thinking like, okay, well, when does Lois Lane come in? When does this other love interest like drop off? Like at some point in time, he's got to leave Smallville. So how much of the show is going to take place in Metropolis? Obviously Clark has super speed, so he can zip back and forth. So the other characters in Smallville can still exist. So it's just fun trying to see where it's going to go. But the special effects are getting a little bit better as the show goes on. But it's just still always fun when there's like a really cheesy special effect, and you're just like, yeah, they did their best, and it didn't look good, but I still had fun. So just letting everybody out there, I'm still on the Smallville train. I will finish it eventually, and I'll do like a whole series review on the podcast of just telling you what I thought about the show. But you got to stay subscribed because it's going to take me a while. Okay,
you can take as long as you need. I will not be tuning in for that episode, Mike. I'll be somewhere else.
Well, I mean, I gotta recap 10 seasons of a show. Yeah. It's gonna be a lot.
Yeah. I was also going to say before I get the Invincible. I've been seeing articles. I pulled up one from my history. The Invincible show and the comic book are actually pretty close, like one for one as well. This like the timeline of like what takes like 10 books in one is like 2 episodes in the show. So I'd be interested to see like the writing team, like how do they decide what needs to be moved up and what didn't for that? Because you mentioned the writing team. So let's just jump into the thing I've been watching this week. I was able to catch not the entire series, but the first few episodes of MODOK, now streaming on Hulu. Did you get through all of it this weekend?
I caught the first episode just a few hours ago because I was like, we're recording today. I got to watch at least one of them.
Yeah, so I caught the first 2 just to kind of show my cards, and it's nothing against the show. Like I said, literally just watching these. But what's great about MODOK is, again, I think you asked us. Hulu tends to put most of their stuff out actually all at once in a Netflix style, like the TV shows. I think they did this with the last Loeb property, which was Hellstrom as well. So all 10 episodes of MODOK are on streaming on Hulu, and you can catch them all. And they're all 22 to 25 episodes, I believe, or minutes per episode, which is great. That's a dinner watch for me, Mike. Yeah. I sit down, eat my whatever I'm having, and get through that. So.
One thing I didn't realize about the show is I know we talked about the show a lot over the last year or so, and it was like this stop motion show, but for some reason I didn't realize it was full stop motion. I thought it was going to be like a stop motion style look to it, and I'm sure there's computers involved with this as well, but when the show dropped on Friday, I saw some retweets in my timeline of people that were like, on set, we have an on set picture here that we can talk about, but some other people putting videos of like some stop motion of just like some of the characters like walking down the street, and I was like, oh wow, this was like a legit like Stupid Buddy production of like them moving these little things, like they did like Robot Chicken and everything. So I was like, wow, a lot of work went into this.
So I'm pretty sure, again, I just want to put the video I showed behind the scenes is a parody video or parody image. They didn't really make a life-size MODOK kind of thing, but they got Patton Oswalt to dress up as it for like the quote unquote the release of this. But I agree. It's very much, if you are familiar with Robot Chicken and how that show operates, this looks about the same, right? Like one of his kids, Lou, when he moves around, who's actually voiced by Ben Schwartz, by the way, of Parks and Rec, Sonic fame. His sweater, he's wearing a sweater, it moves. The fluffiness moves of it, right? Like, I'm a big fan of Fantastic Mr. Fox, if you will. And every time they move the hair on it, like, you're not going to have every hair look the same when you move a mannequin kind of thing. So, you can see that. But I got to say, it is very much a fully stop motion, and they love using the exterior shot of his the aim layer in the hillside, day and nighttime, quite a bit. So this show's out there, Mike. I don't think there's any way to spoil this show very much, if I'm going to be honest. But let's talk a little bit about it. If you guys want to jump ahead to the next thing, we have time codes again in the show notes, stuff like that. But this show, after watching the first episode, which I think about the second one, carries on with the idea of the what's that? I sang the song at the opening of the show, Mike. The Third Eye Blind motive of we saw in the trailer. So the second one deals with a third eye blind motive and kind of what's going on in the life of the MODOKs, if you will, for that. But this is a kind of it's a little darker than I thought, and they linger a little bit on the gore more than I thought they would for a Hulu show. It's not a bad thing, but it's just like I expected it to be more, maybe again like Robot Chicken, more cutaways, more little snippets of other things, flashbacks. But this is pretty much just MODOK being a miserable kind of self-centered asshole and running his company into the ground all at the same time.
I mean, I only had a chance to catch the first episode, but there are some good jokes I laughed at. Some jokes that I thought were funny, but not necessarily laughable. Nothing really fell flat. So that's good. The funny thing about MODOK, after you kind of talk about, the animation, right, it's just basically a comedy show after that. So you're just kind of like, well, how do you review a comedy show? You basically just say if you thought it was funny or not. So we've kind of moved beyond the old television days of like pilots. Now everything just gets series orders, and they break the whole story, then they write it and shoot everything. So, but still, I feel like first episodes always kind of have that same pilot vibe where you got to get a lot of information out there, and then usually once you get to the second, third, fourth episode, they can really start to flex and tell the really funny stuff that they wanted to do without having to introduce all these characters. So I always give first episodes of shows a lot of slack. So I'll know a little bit more once I watch episode 2.
Yeah.
But so far, I'm not as Chris would use this as a metric. I'm not offended.
Yeah.
Patton Oswalt's great. He's always funny. I love that Ben Schwartz is in it. I think her name is Amy, but I don't remember her last name. She voices the mom, I believe. She was in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I think, if I remember right. So a lot of familiar voices in there. Which
Amy Garcia, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah. And then Wendy McClendon Covey, I know her from Reno 911, but she was like on the what was it? That's another TV show. She's on the Goldbergs, the mom on the Goldbergs. Mm-hmm. She's the voice of Monica Rappaccini, which is this is I guess again the remnant of a Jeff Loeb era stuff. And as you know, we obviously love Jeff Loeb around here. I personally have a vendetta against him from comic books, and then again to the Inhumans, it's awful. But of the stuff he's done, this is probably my favorite thing that's come out of it. I think overall. I also think I know exactly what you're talking about. I think the first episode is very much the setting the tone for the show. The second one sets the story for the show. So I think you'll be pleasantly surprised there. I did think of you immediately. 3 minutes into the first episode, Iron Man shows up and he's savoring the Great British Bake Off while he's fighting MODOK.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty good. I always thought that was a pretty good joke, and then he gets infatuated over the boot. So I was like, that's a good joke. I was surprised by the Adaptoid. I thought it was just going to be just a normal kind of standard robot, but no, it's got this. He's got a flare to himself, and then he transforms into a ladder. It was funny.
Yeah. He's like, what am I going to do? You're the ladder because the shrinking pills. I like the Marvel references. I'm going to be. There's a lot of Marvel references as a whole here.
Yeah, there was a Fing Fang Foom one in the first episode.
His restaurant.
The Pym particles. I mean, that is kind of one of the great things about about these animated universes. I believe if they're running the same rules that the animated stuff goes through, they don't have to clear as much stuff. Even though Disney is now collecting a lot more IP, they don't have to worry about it as much anymore. But I think they'll have a lot more clearance for jokes. Yeah,
like I said, Iron Man's in right away, and voiced by John Hamm brilliantly, by the way, as well. Talking about Pym, Fing Fang Foom. AIM, there's going to be more coming up. I haven't got it. Like I said, I'm excited to get there, but I love that they can literally pull anything they want to this because it is parody, it's satire, right? Obviously the MODOK isn't going to cross into the MCU in this form or whatever. I think it's fun. I think one of the interesting things is the rise of MODOK in all Marvel non-MCU stuff right now. We were talking before the show about how the Avengers game is getting the MCU suits, right? And MODOK is literally the villain. MODOK and Monica Rappaccini are the villains of the video game. So I'm like, does Kevin Feige just say, I don't want these two characters, use them for everything else? We really don't want you, kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe.
But I also enjoy the Grumble guy. What's his name? The guy who's obviously the East Coast or West Coast tech guy.
Oh, the CEO.
Yeah, well, he's not a CEO, is he? I thought he was just he's just running Grumble, which is now owns AIM because he ran. I gotta look this up. I didn't pull up enough notes on this one. The thing at the end we're going to talk about later.
That's all right. The great thing about this show, it is relatively low stakes, right? We're not going to have to track it for continuity. If it's popular, I'm sure it'll get a season 2. But at the same time, it was a Jeff Loeb remnant, and we all know that they've been killing everything off that he had left over. So,
this and Hitmonkey are the only other. That's the only other thing left.
And we'll see if Hitmonkey. We have not heard anything else about Hitmonkey.
Last week, Jordan Blum, who is the producer on the show, said that Hitmonkey looks amazing. So apparently they are still working on that one because it's probably, again, low cost animation to work on stuff. So I'm excited to kind of see that, but I'm excited to see MODOK all the way through, all 10 episodes. Again, it's pretty easy to think. I might put it on the background this week once we get kind of going. So yeah, I mean, I would recommend, Mike. I mean, I would recommend anyone who likes a comedy to tune in this. I've talked to a listener of the show, superfan Jim. He thinks it's too much slice of real life for him. So I'm excited to see what he means by that as I kind of work through the show. But I'm down with this, right? Like, it's fine with me. What do you think? Like you said,
like I said before, low stakes. Like what you're like, you don't want to risk 20 minutes on a stop motion show. I mean, you'll be fine.
There will be one joke in every episode that will make you laugh, I think. Or at least you're like, oh, I like that Marvel reference, though. Kind of thing. So, all right, well, MODOK, there it is. Now on Hulu, streaming. Check it out if you want to. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Love the title, right? I think we'll just be calling it Quantumania from now on because Ant-Man and the Wasp is a lot of syllables to get to this. They are going to be filming this movie in a volume like The Mandalorian does.
I mean,
it sounds like they've got this. Yeah, they really got that technology down to where they can expand it, right? Like this is probably a cheap way to do it, keep people safe, and most of the quantum realm is going to be in effects, right? Anyway, so
it is kind of funny to see production go shift a different way, right? Usually they say, like, oh, when a feature comes to a luxury car, right? Like power windows used to be in only luxury cars, and then once they got less new, they filtered down to normal cars. Now everybody got power windows, right? It used to be like the same way with movies, right? The special effects technology and everything would eventually trickle down once it was cheap enough into television, and now this is the totally different way. Now, theoretically, there could have been something comparable to the volume maybe being used on a feature film set, but that's, as far as we know, it was heavily used and created and engineered. Well, but actually, I'm kind of talking myself out of this now because I think I remember when Jon Favreau was in that behind the scenes of that first season of The Mandalorian, he was talking about how he used a lot of this technology on the Jungle Book and then brought it to The Mandalorian.
Well, I think they use VR in the 3D space for the Jungle Book, and then they built it into they combined it with the physical aspect, right? Like most of these movies would just literally build a huge set full of green screen, and actors would kind of go around that. But this time they can actually use the volume with the 3D engine, video game engine, right, to look behind everything and be like, oh, I can interact with that. We've heard stories of The Mandalorian behind the scenes of like, oh, we almost like walked into the wall because we thought it was something in the distance.
Yeah, that might be really cool with Ant-Man too, right? Because if you're like rendering like larger stuff, like I wonder if people will be like, oh yeah, I felt like I was really tiny because I walked by a giant fork.
Yeah, they can interact with things, and maybe not physically. Well, they'll have physical things, but digitally as well. But also the idea of like they literally using a video game rendering engine, so they can have a team of programmers like, hey, move that rock over or change the sky color or something a little bit, right? Because it looks weird here. We can adjust the previs right now to do it and film it as it is. So I think that's really cool. They're doing it. The guy who plays Hank Pym, Michael Douglas, said that it starts filming in London soon. So that's great. Like, right? Like let's get up and going. Let's get these Marvel movies. We got like 12 to get through in the next 2 years, man. So,
yeah, we do.
Let's lock and load. A movie that's recently, I believe, wrapped filming is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I'm going to give you some rumors here. The villain being Shuma Gorath. Are you familiar with Shuma Gorath?
I am not, but I did my due diligence of Googling, and this is like very classic, like Dungeons and Dragons, like creature.
there are two things to look at this. One, he looks exactly like Starro, which is the villain in the Suicide Squad, right? It looks like a starfish with a big eye in the middle, right? Or like an octopus. But two, he is the villain, I believe, one of the final characters you fight in Marvel vs. Capcom. So like that's where he's from. He is known as the mini angled one, the great old one, or something like that. So if you look at him, you're like, oh, this looks really, really weird, crazy. But he's a classic Doctor Strange multiverse villain. So if they're doing the Multiverse of Madness, it would make sense to have a multiverse villain, right? Like this is not as much as we want it to be, was it Mordo? I don't think Mordo's a multiverse kind of wizard. He may show up, but like he's not trying to use it. But the rumor is that Shuma Gorath will be trying to capture and use America Chavez, her reality hopping powers, to take over the multiverse as a whole. Which would be why they have America Chavez in this movie, right? Like to easily go between this, and the rumors also that Scarlet Witch wants to use America Chavez to find her Billy and Tommy in that other dimension she made. Which also makes sense because we saw that in WandaVision. So there's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a lot of storytelling that they're gonna have to get out of this movie, and I'm looking forward to see, hopefully, if they can pull it off. Because I mean, you're gonna create a brand new character that we've never seen before that has some of the most immense powers that we've ever seen in Marvel. Like, it's literally gonna reshape the phase moving forward of all of these different dimensions, and it's all going to kind of rest on this kind of like younger character's shoulders. So I'm curious how they explain. I don't know how America Chavez got her powers in the comic books, but obviously it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the same way in the MCU. So I'm curious how they're going to give this one girl all this power. Yeah, in the comic books, she comes from another dimension naturally. So she got her ability in that other dimension. So I think that'll be probably the easiest way.
Just write it off as like it happened in a dimension. Yeah. I can't explain it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, like or that, like, there's she's in another dimension and something happened. She got it. I don't know, but she doesn't get it in the MCU's dimension, which is the best way to kind of get around that a little bit. But again, directed by Sam Raimi. It sounds like the score will be Danny Elfman. I mean, I'm looking for some like eldritch horror, some some Cthulhu looking visuals, some real, not horror to get out of the PG-13 realm or make it too scary, but like really lean into that mystical kind of gothic horror kind of levels of stuff here with this, especially if Shuma Gorath is the villain of this movie. So we're gonna get out there. But speaking of multiverses, here's where we get some fun. Apparently, the MCU has hired the VFX teams who worked on Spider-Man and The Amazing Spider-Man to work on No Way Home. So leans into that credibility that we're gonna have multiple Spider-Mans, right?
Yeah, I mean, it does make you wonder what exactly is going on here. Like, if you put on your like real like hardcore like nerd hat, you're just like, oh wow, they really want to make sure that they get the other Spider-Mans right. So they're gonna hire the VFX teams that know them best, and we're gonna have like the same people that motion cap Tobey Maguire. They're coming back. Everyone's coming back to make all these Spider-Men. But also at the same time, there's a more pragmatic side to me that's just like, oh, they're just VFX houses. I wouldn't be surprised if these VFX houses have worked on other Marvel movies already, because that's how you make these big movies. Like, everyone knows, we've all sat through the MCU credits to get to those end credit scenes, right? You've seen how long it takes to get through the special effects area, right? Because all of these different houses are responsible for different sections of the movie. So maybe there could be just a little bit of a coincidence here. I don't know. Maybe technically you have to credit a VFX house if you just reach out to them and ask for like a 3D model or something, right? Since they're the originators of it. And I don't know, but I'm personally not reading too much into this.
This has been great. Like, everyone's like, oh, it confirms the other Spider-Man. Yeah, the other Spider-Man are going to be in this movie, right? Like there's no doubt there. But like, the VFX team isn't like a Sherlock and load. Like, what if it was the VFX team who did the fonts for the movies, right? Like, we did this. We did the opening logo for Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Okay,
also,
great.
It's just like, what do you think other VFX houses couldn't handle making Spider-Man? Like, oh, trust me, I think the VFX house that made Godzilla and King Kong fight each other, I think they could handle making a Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire supposedly under the suit.
So what has this VFX team from Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3 been doing for the last 14 years? Just hanging out, waiting for Marvel to call them? Like, we've been riding on our coattails.
Also, if you really think about it too, it's been a while. I bet some of the people that actually worked on the movie, like sat in front of the computers, don't work there anymore, right? It's like what Vision says. What is it? The ship of Sisyphus? I don't remember what that ship was called. Like, how long, how many pieces do you have to take away from the ship and replace? Theseus, until it's not the same. How many VFX employees do you have to take out of a VFX house until it's not the same house anymore?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like, I'm pretty sure if it is, they're probably just working on some VFX, or they like, hey, do you have these, models like you did not do in 4K, 14 years ago, 15 years ago. Can we borrow those for scans? Like, I would literally take the Spider-Man suits out of the PlayStation 4 game and be like, yeah, these look real enough. Like, you don't have to go to the VFX team.
Yeah, that's true.
So. But Spider-Man No Way Home, very excited. Comes out in December. We've not gotten a trailer. There was Sony who shared a photo of a big semi-trailer that said Spider-Man No Way Home this week. And I'm like, this isn't newsworthy, Sony, but I appreciate your humor. So I really expect to see some marketing for this coming sooner than later. Hopefully, by the time we get to Black Widow in July, which is a little over a month away, we will have trailers for Shang-Chi, Eternals, and Spider-Man to get us through the end of the year. Yesterday, I'm pretty sure it was yesterday, Marvel and Sirius XM announced that they are going to be doing a podcast series called Marvel's Wastelanders. This will follow Old Man Star-Lord, Old Man Hawkeye, Grey Widow, and Old Man Logan/Wolverine. And they will be scripted series on the Sirius XM, and then also eventually other streaming platforms later.
And believe it or not, if you were looking at the same image that I'm looking at, which you can find in our show notes, they all have white hair.
Oh my gosh, they're old.
There is no pigment left in any of the hair on their body. It does. It's very much Old Man Logan kind of comic book vibe, but I don't remember Star-Lord or maybe Black Widow was an Old Man. Logan, but
so Old Man Logan was a Mark Miller comic book, as we talked about last week. Hawkeye was in there because he's gone blind, and he helped drive Logan across the country a little bit.
Weren't they driving like Spider-Man's Jeep or
the Spider Buggy?
Yeah.
Recently, they've expanded on this time frame because of the popularity of the series to include other characters, including Old Man Quill and Grey Widow along the way. So what's cool is Old Man Star-Lord will come out June 1st, so literally a week away. So you don't have to wait too long for this. And they've cast, I don't know him, Timothy Busfield as Star-Lord, but you remember the cabin boy himself, Chris Elliott, as Rocket in this thing.
Oh, Chris Elliott's great. That his voice is made for voice work.
Yeah, so I'm excited to hear him do his version of Rocket for this. As well.
I mean, I don't know. It might exist, but I don't know. What does Old Man Rocket look like? Does it just look like a gray raccoon? Like is it no pigment left on that raccoon either?
Yeah, I honestly I don't know. I've never seen him. I'm trying to Google it here while I look
it's
it up.
So strange.
Old Man and Rocket don't really come together.
Yeah, because I know, like, all of these characters are all originated on a page, right? And then later, voices were added to them. But even Rocket in the cartoon shows and, Rocket in the movies kind of has more of like a, I don't want to say high-pitched voice, but, like a little weaselly, I guess, is maybe a way to describe
a raccoony
Rocket's
voice, if you will.
Yeah, and then going Chris Elliott, like the literal other end of the spectrum, is really funny. So it's funny to imagine, like, at some point in time, Rocket's voice like drops, like he went through like midlife crisis puberty or something like that.
Yeah, I mean that, or like literally, the world does, the villains won kind of thing. So in that world, but yeah, so there's that. But I also want to go back to the newest casting was actor Stephen Lang, who you may know as the villain in the Avatar movie, was cast as Hawkeye for this, and then Susan Sarandon as Grey Widow for this. So they're pulling some I would say A-list actors, of that age range out to do the voice cast for this.
All right. I do have to say, take back everything I just said because I was confusing Chris Elliott with Sam Elliott.
Yeah, I know. I was like, Chris Elliott.
And now Chris Elliott makes a lot of sense. That's a great Rocket voice, actually. But now I want Sam Elliott to be the voice of Rocket because that's even great. That's even better.
Maybe he'll come in and do Groot for us. Old Man Groot.
Oh yeah, he could do a Groot. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, Sam Elliott could do an awesome Groot.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's hilarious. If anybody else was yelling at me, like he's thinking of the wrong Elliott.
I was like,
wonder if
Chris
they're
Elliott doesn't have a deep voice, but whatever you want to think, man. I was like, I haven't seen him
wonder-
recently.
Now I wonder if they're related. I don't know, but
Yeah.
either.
Well, anyway, so they're getting age appropriate voice actors for these roles, which is cool. That's great. Like, yeah, you want to do that. So here's a little thing about the series, the Wastelanders, is in the barren, desolate wasteland of the Midwest, as controlled by Doctor Doom, they encounter the ageless telepath Emma Frost, outlaw ghost riders, Doomwood locals, voiced by Danny Glover, and the bloodthirsty Craven the Hunter. Who will find the Black Vortex first, and what will the price of his power be? So the Black Vortex was another comic series Marvel did a while ago with Guardians of the Galaxy. So I'm excited to tune into these audio kind of, I guess, stories here a little bit and listen to them. I'm not into murder mystery podcasts, so I'll take a Marvel series to listen to. What do you think?
Yeah, bring it on. I mean, they've been successful in the past, so.
I mean, on your commute to work, are you gonna listen to them?
If I ever get my commute to work back, I might. But we'll see.
So Marvel's Wastelanders, check it out. Sirius XM is the first one to have it there, so it's probably in the app, and then it'll be on other stuff later. So do that. Switching over to a galaxy far, far away, Star Wars Rangers of the Republic is reportedly no longer in development at Lucasfilm.
Yeah, no longer in active development, which I believe is an important thing to note, because I saw a lot of headlines, a lot of articles, a lot of nerds running with the idea that the show was axed, and they were just saying, "Oh, it's not in development right now," which it could eventually end up getting axed, right? But I think what maybe one of the I don't know if it was ever confirmed, but wasn't it heavily implied that Cara Dune might have been kind of carrying the show.
Yeah, so Cara Dune, they've kind of left that up, like the Cara Dune, and then there was the guy who was in Kim's Convenience as the X-Wing guy. Pilot. So like kind of looking into that, because they had histories, with the New Republic and with her firing, and they're not going to recast her. They could do that. So the other theory is, or idea is, they could introduce another Ranger into the Mandalorian / other shows, and then make that the lead going forward.
Yeah, which is very possible, but that means you need to rewrite everything, because you have to introduce a brand new character in this show. So they're just they probably just going back to the drawing board, literally. So
and that's fine. Disney's got how many shows they had in? They came out with like 10 shows right last fall. So I think this is fun.
Stuff. Plenty of other stuff to work on.
Yeah, 16 weeks of the Bad Batch. If you've not caught up with it, this is not a spoiler, but they showed in the trailers that Ming-Na Wen's Fennec Shand was going to be in the show, and she was in this week's episode. So I don't think it'll be her only appearance. So I'm very excited, because you just hear her voice, you're like, that's Mulan, or Agent May from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So that's really cool. To see all these, and I believe. I didn't put it in here, but Dave Filoni was promoted this week.
to like a big executive creative position. I don't remember the exact title, but it makes so much sense, because when you really think about it, after all of these years and decades and all of these installments of Star Wars, like really beyond the original trilogy, Dave Filoni, and like maybe give a little bit of credit to
Jon Favreau.
Jon Favreau, but Filoni, he's been involved with all of the best stuff. All of the cream of the crop storytelling has always been Filoni.
So apparently, and I just read this out, Dave Filoni he was updated to executive creative director at Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
But apparently he's been there for quite some time. They just updated their website.
Oh.
That's fine. That's great. I mean, it's good that we know that now, because he is. What George Lucas was for the expanded universe, Dave Filoni is for Star Wars going forward, right? Like he's telling the stories, he's creating the characters. Between Clone Wars and Rebels, and now back to the Bad Batch and the Mandalorian, and obviously the Ahsoka show and the all that stuff. I'm really, really excited to see that. So there's a lot of good Star Wars stuff in active development that we can look forward to. That isn't Rangers of the New Republic right now. Mm-hmm. We have talked about this probably to no extent this week, about Warner Media spinning off of AT&T and joining forces, or being purchased by Discovery Plus Network, the parent company.
Very confusing. You had to really read the headlines, because nobody was using the word sold or selling off. It was always just like shifting, acquiring, new
Merging.
bookkeeping. Yeah, so it's very confusing. If you didn't know already, AT&T, the telecom, owned Warner Media, which owns these other properties like DC and HBO Max. If you're a regular listener of the show, you already knew this. But I don't expect a normal layperson on the street to know this. They don't have to know this. They shouldn't have to know this. But apparently what's happening is AT&T is in a crap ton of debt because they bought a bunch of stuff that I don't know if they weren't getting quite their return on investment or if the board was getting nervous. But I think...
From my understanding, like a telecom buying a media company, they didn't know what to do with it, so they didn't know how to make money from it. And I also saw some fingers pointing at this HBO Max same day and date streaming deal as theaters, which I don't think that would affect it too much. But who am I? But continue.
I think the two biggest bits that I got out of this news throughout the week was number one. The spending difference.
Yes.
They were Netflix is infamously known for dropping tons of cash on content, right? I think it's like 15.
It was $8 billion, I believe, a year.
Yeah, it was a lot, like a whole lot. I want to almost say like maybe I even saw a number like in the teens of billions of dollars making content, and like there are people over at HBO Max or like Warner Media trying to get $4 billion, and then they only got $2 billion. So like Netflix was just ludicrously outspending them to make stuff. So they're really only like resting on their Warner Media catalog, which lucky for them, the back catalog was really, really good, but they were just not spending the same amount of money.
So that's why, I mean, again, as much as I love HBO Max, it's not the originals I'm tuning in for right now, right? Like I'm watching a bunch of old stuff. They have good originals, but that was going to be on their network as well. So from my understanding, they've gone into Discovery Plus, which has been a rising, I guess competitor in the streaming market, but like it's a very niche service, right? Like this is where your HGTV and your what is that, DIY networks, the Food Network, I believe, is also in there. Is that right?
Maybe I'm not 100% sure, but
Food Network, TLC, and ID. So like they merged, and they're gonna like dump tons of money into shows. So I would not be surprised if in the next 6 to 12 months, or by the end of the year even, your HBO Max and Discovery Plus app will merge into one. HBO Discovery, whatever they're gonna call it, some stupid name probably that we don't like, but you're going to be able to get all this content on the something, is my understanding from this, and then they're going to start pumping money into original shows because again, like I said, I've been to the dentist a few times because when you go for root canal, you got to get it done and you have to get the crown put on, and all they're watching in that goddamn place is HGTV. Like I have seen so many let's buy a house TV shows in the past week. I just want to just I just want to burn a house down. Why am I buying a house now? These shows have ruined it for me. But I would be excited to see that those I guess things kind of turn into be added to HBO Max, if you will, because I know I love the Food Network. We talked about sharing pictures of snacks, right? Like the Food Network would be a huge win for me on one streaming service rather than two, kind of thing. So. I'm excited to see what they do with this content. They announced some other stuff here in a little bit. We're kind of gonna jump into that here at the end of this. So I'm gonna move some stuff around in our show notes here. One of the things we talked about recently, was it last week that it was HBO Max says that Adult Swim was gonna do their movies, right? So this week they've announced that there are going to be 4 web series spin-offs of some of their popular shows, including. A Rick and Morty The Vindicators spinoff, Robot Chicken Alabama Jackson.
I'm not familiar with that character.
Donald Faison, is that how you pronounce his name? From Scrubs. He's like a time traveling person.
Okay.
Do that. Aquadonk Side Pieces, which is an Aqua Teen Hunger Force spinoff, focusing on the characters from the show later on in their lives. Like Happy Time Harry, the Moon and Night, so on and so forth, and then Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell, the animated series.
Yeah, I'm curious what web series specifically means. Like, we just gonna catch this on their their YouTube page, and also like nobody. I'm not gonna say nobody goes to websites anymore, but like, does that mean like, oh, I open up the Adult Swim app on my Roku to watch these things?
So they said specifically on digital platforms, but they did not specifically say HBO Max. So they were like, I could see it being on YouTube.
I mean, if they're shorts, I mean, depending on the length of them, they might just be on like their social media accounts too.
Yeah, exactly. So these are going to be short, 8 to 10 episodes for the season. They're probably going to be 5 to 10 minute episodes anyway, something short and sweet, if not less. I would liken I'm almost going to liken these to the Mickey Mouse shorts they put on Disney Plus that they're like 3 to 5 minutes depending on what you're watching. So this is cool. That Adult Swim, again owned by Warner Media, is going to be putting some more money into their animated stuff to kind of get us going. So with that, something else superhero related announced was My Adventures with Superman, an animated series for HBO Max, with already announced for 2 seasons. We've got some key artwork here. Jack Quaid, I forget his name in The Boys. He's like the regular dude whose girlfriend was obliterated. But, he's voicing Clark Kent / Superman in this. So looks very much. It kind of got. I'm gonna be honest, like an anime feel to this artwork.
Yeah, a little bit. I would say it's kind of like that Western interpretation of anime, which is funny because anime is like the Japanese interpretation of Western animation.
Yeah, it kind of gives me like a modern Pokemon vibe, if I was going to be honest, like how these characters kind of look a little bit. But yeah, so it's going to be like we have Jimmy Olsen, Lois Lane, and Clark Kent here. Kind of running around. It looks like it'll be the 20-something Clark Kent, the bright and driven Lois Lane, and their best friend Jimmy Olsen as they begin to discover who they are and everything they can accomplish together as they investigate as an investigative reporting team at the Daily Planet. So this is like post Smallville.
Yeah, I think Smallville might get to when he's a reporter at the Daily Planet at some point in time. But either way, I'm okay with this. I mean, I get dragged down into a lot of animated discourse on social media with the people that I follow, and they share a lot of either good hot takes or they retweet bad hot takes so they can say how bad the bad hot takes were. And this little screen cap here was not safe. There's some really stringent Superman fans that think this is like the wussification of Clark Kent, and it's just like, okay, come on, just relax. There's tons of hyper masculine Superman stuff that you can go watch if you think this isn't, but this is just Clark Kent, and they put like a little bit of like blush on his cheeks because whatever emotion he's experiencing in this scene makes him look like that. I don't know. People just go crazy. The fandom for cartoons that are not children. The people are insane, and I can say that very very safely. Not all of them, but I mean, it's like, come on, it's just a cartoon. Just have fun with it. Yeah. I mean, where have you been the last 20 years? They make and cancel and reboot these properties all the time with like animation. Like we say that all the time on the show. If you don't like it, just wait 2 years, and there's going to be a brand new Superman cartoon that you can love, and then it'll get canceled. Or hate. And then
I mean, I think that's one of the things as well. Like, like it can tell a different story of a different Superman. Like he can be like, he's still trying to be secretive, right? Like when he was 20, he wasn't the Superman we know now, like who's in his like 40s, right? So this is perfectly fine to tell that story and do it in animation, so we don't have to get the live action DC people being vocal, because Jesus, we'll never shut up about that. On the flip side of that, if you like old Batman, then you're going to love this bit of news. Batman Caped Crusader, an animated series ordered to HBO Max, with Bruce Timm of Batman the Animated Series as an executive producer on the show, along with J.J. Abrams, who's at HBO Max, and Matt Reeves, who's working on the new Batman as well. They are very clear. This is not a sequel to the Batman the Animated Series.
See, there you go, animation nerds. If the My Adventures with Superman got you freaked out, this is probably the most aggro animated Batman that has ever been made. He's got very bat-like ears. I don't know if that's
the tallest ears I've ever seen on a Batman.
Yeah, I don't know if those are necessarily going to stick around once the character goes into animation. But it looks really cool. I mean, This is very dark. This looks intense.
This is 89 Batman font, if I'm going to be honest with you. Like, right? Like the title, the words. This is not again, I could see this being kind of in the 20s, 30s vibe of the animated series, but like being, still like a different take, a darker Batman, because
like what if this is like, oh, this is Batman the animated series, but what if we didn't have to make it, for a kid audience, right?
Yeah.
I doubt that they're gonna go, Harley Quinn angle, right?
Yeah.
And then just like, have like nudity and like sex and like blood and everything like that. Actually, I don't know if there's nudity in the Harley Quinn show.
I don't think there is, but yeah.
I just assume by like the kind of like
an R-rated
nature of
it's not an R-rated Batman.
Yeah, I think they're just gonna go like PG-13,
like hard 13.
Yeah, I don't know. All we have to go off of is just this minimal amount of information, but this is cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very, again, it's a bottom lip Batman, if you will. Like the darker art style here is very, very telling. Like, it feels like the animated series, but like, I guess the next evolution of the animated series, if you will. Like, it's not the same, but man, they've gotten really close to it without being the same. Mm-hmm. And I'm excited to see it. It looks fun. I like this artwork style. I'm hoping to see some movement from it, and that's a good team to be put in front of Batman. So check out that thing there. We'll get you going about that. The other DC animated series announced is the Injustice animated series, which is awesome because that follows the video game series, which later had I think 5 or 6 volume comic book series. And the whole premise is Batman and Superman go to war after the Joker kills Lois Lane. And the whole world is at stake here. So it's kind of like a civil war, if you will, for Batman and Superman, but in an alternate timeline rather than just a one-off thing. But the video games were made by NetherRealm Studios, which makes Mortal Kombat, which is even better.
Do we know? So it's an animated movie. So do we think they're going to be using like the character models from the game? Like, is this going to be like a CG movie?
No, they're going to do like what they're doing right now with the Long Halloween, the Justice League War.
Oh, so just kind of more of the traditional DC animated movies.
Yes, and I the story. So Injustice 1 is the kind of the breaking point of this whole story, right? Like, what's the world look like? Essentially when Superman becomes a dictator, and lots of superheroes and villains have died very gruesome deaths. That's why Mortal Kombat. Man. The second one tells of Supergirl coming to Earth after all this, and what does that arrival mean for everybody else? But there were, I believe it was 5 volumes, so years 1 through 5 of the Injustice book series. Right, so each volume was a different year, working its way up from the inciting incident all the way to where the games were. Mm-hmm. And it shows like individual characters, where they are, who's switched sides, who's good, who's evil, who's died, who's alive. So I think they're going to take the comic book artwork and stories and put it into this kind of thing. So I don't think we'll get Injustice 2 yet. I think it'll just be the first one, if you will. So, did you play these games at all? I don't remember if you did.
No, but I'm familiar enough with them to know what's going down.
As someone who's again gotten back into Mortal Kombat, I really, really liked Injustice 2, which came out 4 years ago or so. And how you get different outfits and different looks for your characters and stuff like that. So if you ever find that on sale, I would recommend it. I think I think it won an award for maybe best fighting game of that year as well. Mm-hmm. So I'd recommend it if you get a chance to pick that up and snag it. Even the old one's pretty great.
Gotcha.
For that. And what's one of the oddest looks at any of these TV shows ever? The character Impulse has been revealed for the Flash TV show. Do you know who Impulse is before we go down this rabbit hole?
Isn't Impulse? I don't know the exact origin, but it's like a younger speedster, right?
Yes. So Impulse is the son of Barry Allen and Iris West, Bart Allen. So this is like their son from the future, I guess, in the TV show then, because they haven't gotten that far to have a teenage son yet. Mm-hmm. So we got our first look at this character, And the first look is a bad look at this character.
Oh boy! I mean, yeah, you included another photo here which I hadn't seen, which is very, very helpful. With just as the actor on Instagram showing a picture of the suit, and they make pretty decent suits for the Flash over there. I think they look good. The characters fit them pretty well. But this is just a great example of just poor decision making on the marketing team.
Yeah,
this is like the worst staged photo I've ever seen. This looks like a little kid who just put on pajamas and is like he's
not even in
the air.
I feel like his face is photoshopped into this. And like you went to the mall and you went into one of those photo booths and it's like, let's take your face and put on here. So if you see though, I did include an original image that they base this on, right? Like I guess the introduction of Impulse in the comic books when he's a much younger kid. Yeah. So I get where they came from, but this is a bad execution.
Yeah, because in the comic book frame, this is a very dynamic pose, right? You got one leg up, you got this line of action running through the character. It's foreshortened in a very I would say effective way, and in this one, he just looks like like where, Mom, did you pack my lunch? Like. It's just it's
the look
just
on his
bad.
face, like it's no happiness. But then if you look at the actor I shared, Jordan Fisher, he posted a selfie of him in the actual suit in a mirror, and it looks way better.
I feel like the perspective of the head is off because like it looks like he has like a little afro on his head.
Like the hair does not match up with his actual hairstyle.
But with this Instagram picture, like he has a very kind of like a modern kind of like haircut, and it's like this just looks like little kid going to recess.
So I think here the problem is here. If you look at this, the bad one, Mike, it has been photoshopped and doctored to match the pose of the other one in proportions because his left foot, the one that's up off the ground, is way too big for his leg, which is like pointing backwards, right? Like the proportion of his body is really weird right there. So he looks short, but with a tall torso, and his head's even bigger.
It's bizarre. So I feel like we put this one in the show notes just to really, really motivate you to go find the show notes and click on this to look at this promo of Impulse.
It's not good. But it's fun. It's just to let you know, there's a point when every show should probably think about ending, and I think The Flash is getting to that point in his lifespan where you're like, you don't care anymore. I forgot that DC Super Pets was supposed to come out this year, but they have actually gone to a current DC actor, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, to voice Crypto the Superdog in this.
Oh my God, does he have? I mean, I'm sure I'm pretty positive he has children, but are they at an age where they need something that they can watch that their dad does? Because that's usually what motivates these decisions, right?
Could you save some roles for other actors, DC? Could you let someone else have it? Don't get me wrong. Dwayne Johnson did a great job in Moana as Maui. I think he's a great actor, and he did a great job voice acting. But I don't see the need to do this, but that's fine. It's not my decision.
I just didn't think that this project was high profile enough to attract the biggest actor on the planet,
Well, they probably got him, doing some ADR for Black Adam and like, hey, while you're in that booth, can you read a couple of these lines off for us?
You know what? I suppose, I don't know if we've ever gotten any confirmation if Superdog is supposed to speak, but I mean, if this is like a Groot situation and they just need him to record some barking noises, he could have gotten the gig done in 20 minutes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they talk in the comic series to each other because they're just like the pets themselves. Mm-hmm. It's a kid's book. If you've not seen it, DC Super Pets, one of them's called Pooches of Power, and it's got a bat dog and a Crypto the Superdog fighting an actual penguin. Who is the penguin? It's you don't even want to know, man. You don't even want to know. But this is an interesting casting thing. But he's Black Adam. He's the most profitable actor almost every year so far. So, and Jungle Cruise is coming out the end of this month or end of this year, end of July. So 2 months. The Suicide Squad going to drop some rumors on you, Mike. Rumors according to a calendar, because that's where leaks are coming from these days. The 2021-2022 calendars is that Peter Capaldi's Thinker is possibly one of the villains.
Yeah, I mean, the Thinker, speaking of the Flash, is on my radar because the Thinker was the villain, and I think in maybe one of the last seasons I watched of The Flash. So, yeah, I mean, I could see it.
Yeah, and he's in the trailer talking to the Suicide Squad as well. Yeah, he's to traditionally a villain, but also, we know that Starro, the large starfish dude, is coming as a villain. And another thing was like the rulers of the island, Malta or Cortez, which were just like dictators. I'm like, okay, this is fine. But, we're at that part of the year where we're starting to get leaks for these upcoming movies based on promotional items and specifically calendars, because every month has to have a picture, promo artwork. And that's going to lead us into our next topic, the Batman. Boy, do you want to see some Batman images? We got calendar images for you to look at here. Our show notes, full of them. So I've got two of them for you here. One is not working for some reason. The other one is. So if you want to see some promo art of Batman himself in his suit, which looks cool. I like the Batman suit. Very, very, it's a promo art. But also the Riddler in what looks to be some sort of BDSM mask.
The Riddler looks like straight up like I feel like the Zodiac Killer looks like, right? This is very creepy. Like, you would not want to come across this person.
I thought this was a homemade Doctor Doom costume.
Oh yeah,
because it looks like a homemade kind of Doctor Doom costume. It looks like I did not include the right link, but there's more images to see, kind of like really it's just Batman and the Riddler, right? And we don't know what the Riddler looks like, played by Paul Dano, great actor. So I'm excited to kind of see more about this. It's coming out next March 2022. We probably won't get our next trailer until Fandom 2021 later this year. So yeah, I mean, this Batman movie's on my radar, Mike. I don't know. What about you?
It's on everybody's radar, right? Because this the word on the street, right, is that there's going to be two Warner Brothers universes left in DC. There's going to be Matt Reeves Batman, Bat Reeves. There's going to be Bat Reeves, and there's going to be Snyder.
Nah, they're
world kind of, but we'll see.
The DCEU, but we'll see where the Joker ends up. Who knows? Where that goes. So. Yeah, we got a lot to catch up when the Flash arrives, but this is one of two Batman we could be seeing in 2022, right? So, the other one with being bringing back '89 Batman. So Mark Miller's Miller World kicking off. Netflix is getting through all his projects, right? They just did Jupiter's Legacy.
There you go,
Jupiter's Legacy, and now they're working on his one of his earlier comic books called Nemesis. So Emerald Fennell, who just won an Oscar for her script for Promising Young Woman, has turned in a script for the series. She was also tapped to write Zatanna for the DC HBO Max show. So I think this is great news. The late Tony Scott worked on this show, or this movie series, whatever it was before, and it has some visuals. We don't have those, but apparently his visuals where Tony Scott worked on will be provided for the show as they kind of work on it. About that. Which is pretty cool for me. I mean, I think it's, fair to say it's pretty good. I'm really excited to see where kind of Mark Miller's stuff goes after Jupiter's Legacy. But Nemesis is one of those, like, I think it's like one of his bigger series outside of that. So tapping an Oscar winner to write it is great, right? I mean, that's what you want out of this.
Well, you can't go wrong with hiring an Oscar winner. Golden Globes is a different story, because who knows if that will stick around. But,
timely, but yes. I mean, that's cool. I mean, again, Netflix bought Miller World, so they can really adapt any of their projects. So it looks like, again, as we talked about, they're dumping tons of money into these projects to put more content out there. So that sounds good to me. I mean, yeah. Are you familiar with Nemesis?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I mean, my experience with Miller kind of stops at like Kick-Ass and what was the other one that he did?
Well, he had Wanted and then Kingsman.
I was thinking Kingsman. Yeah, I guess Wanted was one as well. But yeah, this one I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, it's more of I think he's like I don't know, like an anti-Batman kind of thing. He's like a killer or a villain. So. I don't know.
Would you say he's a nemesis, Chris?
Yeah, like he is a villain, but he's like dressed in white. He kind of dresses like a modern Moon Knight, like the opposite of a Batman, right? Completely white. So it's I think again, like we talked about with Jupiter's Legacy, Mark Miller's not precious with his content, right? They've changed a lot of the stuff. So They could very well make this very different for that. Speaking of Netflix and its adaptations, which for some reason are all from DC, Sweet Tooth, the Vertigo comic book adaptation, which Vertigo is an imprint of DC, by the way. So why this is on HBO Max, we've talked about, we don't know. The trailer for this, which I thought was a prequel to the Fall Out Boy music video from the early 2000s, Sugar, We're Going Down. It's not. It's actually a book from, I think, about, it either ended in 2011 or started in 2011. I think it's around 2011, 2012. It came out, and it's about a world where people are dying due to a mysterious virus. The next thing you know, these half breeds, half animal, half people are born, and how that affects the world, kind of thing. So you got to see this trailer. I'm familiar with the comic book, Mike. With Sweet Tooth, they had a sequel or an anthology series recently in the I think in 2020, last year. This might be your first introduction to this, so what do you think?
I was so unfamiliar with it when you told me to watch the trailer. I was just like, wait, the Twisted Metal Sweet Tooth?
Yeah.
There's a trailer for that thing out already? Because weren't they adapting that? And then I was like greeted with a young child with antlers. But I dug the vibe of the trailer. It feels very dramatic, very emotional, but also kind of like this fantasy element to it because you got these animal hybrids. It did remind me a little bit of this anime that I watched like one episode of. I don't know if it's a Netflix original or if Netflix just happened to have it. I think it's called Beastars.
Beastars,
kind of a similar plot. They're not necessarily hybrid as much as like humans that can like transform into kind of anthropomorphic animals.
Okay, so
I don't quite remember, but there's like a walled off city, and like the humans don't like them, and they like hunting them down and stuff. So that kind of element is still there. But
like Bloody Roar. Do you ever play the Bloody Roar video game?
Mm-mm.
It's a fighting game where like it's like a regular fighting game like Tekken or something like that, but you had the ability to turn into like everyone had like an animal form they could turn into, which like gave them more special abilities and stats. But yeah, I get what you're saying. So in this Sweet Tooth, so the main character, his nickname is Sweet Tooth because he eats all of his friend's candy one night. So that's where the title of the series comes from, if that helps you figure that out. So don't be holding your breath for the name of the show to tie.
Don't be holding my breath for a renegade ice cream machine to drive onto the set.
Exactly. So so this is about this one kid and his friend. I can't think of his friend's name. His protector, if you will, who goes out with him and takes him out into the world. I think it's Jeopard is his name and Gus is the kid's name. So it's looks. I mean, Netflix is going all in with this look of this half deer boy, huh?
I just thought it was funny that they splashed the DC logo everywhere. And it's just like, well, technically it's Vertigo, but nobody knows what the hell that is. So let's do the DC logo everywhere. And then, it does make you wonder, is it not on HBO Max? Just because originally, like, it was Vertigo that was going out there, like, maybe pitching this, and, like, HBO Max was just like, oh, we don't care if Superman or Batman's not in it. But then at the same time, when you go to a place like Netflix, they do like let the creators like move forward with their vision at the same time. But also, there's creative producers over there at Netflix as well. So this is kind of a way of saying, even if this would have been on HBO Max, it could have been a totally different project. There could have been totally different people involved. So. I'm sure Netflix likes the ability to say that, like, oh, we're like the only streamer that has Marvel originals and DC originals on our platform.
Well, the other thing is, other Vertigo shows. You made Preacher was a Vertigo show. Mm-hmm. Lucifer, because that's a spinoff of Sandman, which when Sandman comes out will be on Netflix, right? For that, and then Constantine, the one that was on, like, what was it? NBC before it jumped to CW.
Yeah.
So that's also those are all Vertigo imprint.
And I guess it's funny if you think about Preacher, because Preacher I believe was FX,
AMC,
which is it was AMC. Oh,
yep.
Okay. I was gonna say if it's FX, that's kind of funny because that falls under Disney, but.
Yeah,
but I think it was on Hulu. I think that's where I was watching it.
Yeah, Vertigo. I mean, just literally listing them off there: Constantine, Sandman, Preacher. They're all like supernatural religious comic books that wouldn't probably fall under the DC normal labels of superheroes. So
maybe.
a lot of adult oriented books there. But yeah, Sweet Tooth, one of those. So excited to see that. Also on Netflix this week and in theaters, didn't know that, came out in theaters as well. Army of the Dead by Zack Snyder. Finally,
we've reached
here.
this section of the show. I think the only reason that this made it onto our show to talk about is there's not a whole lot of brand new movies to talk about at this point in time. Things are starting to open back up. But, it is a Snyder movie. We do have Dave Bautista, also known as Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy. So there is crossover into the superhero slate lore. We're usually not covering a lot of zombie stuff here. So instead of getting a spoiler cast, you're just getting it here at the end of the episode right here.
Yes, so exactly. We're not going to break it out here, but, again, Zack Snyder, known for his work in the DC universe. Recently, the Snyder Cut, which happened to be about the time I started promoting this movie, came out here. What's interesting about this is directed by Zack Snyder. Screenplay was also by Zack Snyder. Story by Zack Snyder. Cinematography by Zack Snyder.
Yeah, this is 100% resting on his shoulders. That's for sure.
And we'll talk about the story here in a minute, but I will. I don't know how to approach this review, Mike.
Do you just want to do like a real quick spoiler free review?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do here. Yeah. So so this is on Netflix. Overall, it deals with again, just from the trailer, a group of what appears to be maybe they're not military, but they're like armed people who need to go into Las Vegas, which is a quarantine zombie zone, and get some money. And if they get the money out, they get a portion of that money. And this I think again, Dave Bautista has proven himself to be more than just a wrestler, more than a Drax dry person. I think he's a good actor, but this movie does not feel anything more than maybe a student film or a side project, if you will, by Zack Snyder to prove that he can do everything on a movie set. I was honestly looking to see if it was edited by Zack Snyder as I was looking this up, because there are it's called bokeh effect, and if I said it was overused, I would be lying to you. It is one of the hardest. It's the hardest movie I've had to watch in a while, because it feels like a student film, because I know I've been there. I've made movies with this short depth of field before in my life, where everything in the background is blurry except you're focusing. But this movie just does not seem... It's a zombie heist movie, and guess what? It ended exactly how I thought it would end. I was not surprised. I'm not impressed. I didn't care for it, Mike. That's where I'm at with this. I don't know how to talk about it, so take it away, Mike. Spoiler-free review.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I might be slightly more positive on the movie than you, but overall, that's not a good thing, right? I think if I had to grade it, at best a B-, but I would say it's definitely in the C range more than likely. The world that Snyder attempts to build, I would say, is somewhat interesting. I always appreciate when people add lore to kind of like a common story. I said the same thing about the what's the movie called about where it's like a romantic comedy zombie movie. What was it called? Warm Hearts or Warm Blood?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like Warm Blooded. They got the guy who plays Beast in the X-Men movies.
Yeah, exactly. And I like how even in that movie they add a little bit to the zombie lore. So I like that, at least Snyder is trying to do something new here. I love the concept of a zombie apocalypse that's isolated to one area. I think that's interesting, because most zombie stories that are told, you always have to tell an apocalyptic story, right? You always have to tell about, what are humans doing now? How are they surviving? How are they escaping? How are they trying to get away? Like, nobody just ever tells zombie stories where humanity's still pretty okay. So I thought it was interesting that it's just isolated to Vegas itself adds a little bit of an extra kind of visual style that you can give to this kind of story. So I do like that. And there's some other things that Snyder tries with, like Easter eggs, which we can get into with the spoilers, that could have some interesting concepts, but I would say executed very poorly. The depth of field thing, I had a chance to watch it before you, so I had to text you and say, it's not your eyes. You don't need to see the eye doctor.
You were not the only person. Like, I saw reviews of this all week leading up to this, and that was like, they were like, what is going, like, I hope this is not a trend in film.
Like, I mean, I get kind of what's happening, to the point of, like, either one of two things, right? Either Snyder thinks this is going to be really cool because thinks he's adding an extra emotional element to his film by going with this very crushed depth of field, that of just like, oh, when we get even like usually this is like reserved for like kind of like medium shots, right? But if it's not a wide shot, you cannot see the background anywhere you're going. So I don't know if he's trying to insinuate an emotion to his audience, or maybe I saw some theories that this could be a practical thing of just like, oh, if we never show the background, we don't have to put our money there, right? But a lot of money went into this film. This was like, what, $100 million, I think is what I was seeing. So this ain't no just kind of like indie Netflix darling, right?
Yeah, it probably costs more to make this movie than they were trying to get out of the casino, if I'm going to be honest with you at the end of the day, if you include marketing this. But I will tell you, the crushed depth of field is used to create a sense of claustrophobia.
Like or sometimes like dream-like feelings. You know, like either way, you can get an emotion out of it, but it's just like you don't have to do it for the whole movie, man. You save it for specific scenes, not every time the camera punches in, right? So that was very distracting, unfortunately. I like the ambitiousness of trying to use a lot of practical effects on the zombies, right? You know, they really went in there, they put a lot of plaster and clay on faces, and I appreciated that, but it does feel kind of out of place when you do these very grandiose like VFX shots, which there's a couple of them in the film. So it did feel a little disconnected there, especially when you see the CG tiger, which you do see in the trailers of like this very highly animated polished CG tiger, and then you see like this kind of zombie scrambling around with like clay on his face. So there was a little bit of a different disconnect there with the visual style, but I don't want to say anymore because I don't want to spoil anything. So I think we should jump into spoilers here.
Yeah, let me mark down our time code if you want to know about spoilers, or if you haven't watched it yet. But I'm pretty sure everyone but me has Netflix still at this point. You know, this whole movie, it is a Rogue One scenario, if you will. No one makes it out alive except the daughter, right? Like only one person lives out of this whole thing.
And I mean, I can complain about a lot of things, and I'll start here, of the whole side plot of trying to save this mother that's trapped in Vegas, and you don't even get visual confirmation of her death. And it's not one of those things like, oh, he's trying to be cagey, he's trying to hide it. Maybe we'll see them in this zombie universe sequel that he's going to make. Like, no, like they kind of allude to it, but they don't. Like, we had to we rewatched it, Chris. Yeah. We rewatched the last section with the helicopter because my wife leaned over to me and she's like, what happened to that mom that they wasted like the last act of the movie on? So we rewatched it. And when the Dave Bautista's daughter walks around to the cockpit to see Tig Notaro impaled, there's like a brief, out of focus, like everything in this film, shot of maybe the top of another person's head, because the mother, this woman, was supposed to be in the passenger seat of the helicopter. Yeah. Now, why does half of the helicopter survive the wreck and the other half not survive it? I don't know what to tell you. But like, why don't you show the confirmation visually of this character dying? Like, do something. Like, that's so lazy.
There is a reason for this, and I will tell you why. Because it actually ties into Tig Notaro being in this film.
So you think it was because the shot that they were forced to use?
Shots they used had Chris D'Elia in it, who was originally the actor who Tig Notaro was replaced with digitally.
Yeah, so that makes sense, but only if like the corpse was supposed to be draped over Chris D'Elia, right? Like we literally can't do it because they're interacting, but like you could have done an insert shot of like a bloody head, you know, against the glass, even if
just
it was,
a
like,
reaction.
Out of focus.
You could have done a reaction to the body, you know.
Exactly.
Like he doesn't care about the actual reason she broke off in this film. It's all for an action scene to crash a helicopter to shoot Dave Bautista in the face.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think that just goes into the tone of I just hated the ending. I think I would maybe have a different feel for this movie if they stuck the ending, but I hated the ending because, like, a thing that you do in movies, right, with when you're trying to defeat the enemy, right, you're trying to defeat the villain, there has to be some sort of problem solving that happens. in there, right? You know, usually it's like we need to get the character in front of the villain and then we can defeat the villain. But like they've had interactions before in the film, so it's not a matter of fact of just finding the bad guy, right? You know, he can obviously whoop their ass. He's like this big, powerful zombie, right? So I was expecting, what's going to be the one-upsmanship here, right? How are they going to get the angle to creatively defeat the bad guy? And there is none. There's just some commotion in the helicopter that distracts the zombie for a second so they can shoot it in the head, right? It's not like Tig Notaro like sacrifices herself and like does some sort of cool helicopter maneuver that moves the zombie around. Like, no, there's just some commotion and then it gets shot in the head.
It was the explosion with a gun that shouldn't have even been balanced where it was at the end of the day. Like, it's this movie suffers from 3 ticking clocks at some point because they keep moving the time up to get out of this thing, right? They were like, you have 3 days. Okay, we're in there. Okay, you have like 3 hours. Oh, we have to redo the vault one more time and we only get one more chance. He needs 30 minutes kind of thing. Like there is a lot of moving pieces in this film of like And do your best not to think about any of them too much because the plot makes no sense, right? Because the ulterior motive for the kind of the guy who's hiring all of these mercenaries, if you will, is he just wants to get like some alpha zombie DNA, right? Yeah.
I don't know if there's a specific reason why he has to get the head, but I could assume there is a reason to just get the head of the queen or an alpha or something.
It was
like
still
that.
alive. That's why.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So they still want it alive.
Yeah, they still want it alive.
So I get that, but I think everyone would agree, why do you need to give this team this whole kind of like cloak and dagger treatment? Why don't you just tell them, like, I will give you $200 million from my own account if you just go into this zombie city and take off a zombie head? If you would have just focused the whole team, it all would have gone much better. Like, the money was pointless to you, so the whole fact that they have to do all of this money heist is just a moot point. It's just dumb, you know?
Well, I think the only reason they had it was the I think their plan was go in and get get the helicopter off where the money is, kind of thing. It was a lot of waste of time, right? Like they spent a lot of time going through what was this. It felt like the Last Crusade, of like where they sending the zombie through the traps, kind of thing. They're like, oh, there's blow darts. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there's guns. Then it smashes.
Yeah, that's another thing too. It's like you can you're presenting us a real world with a very unreal scenario of zombies that everyone's on board with zombies. If you establish it well enough. And I actually thought the intro of the movie was actually kind of compelling. They're moving this zombie from Area 51. Aliens may or may not be involved, and then it jumps out. I was like, okay, that's kind of cool, and that's how it gets to Vegas. And then the opening montage was actually kind of entertaining. I kind of like how that's how they did a lot of their heavy lifting of introducing these characters as just a montage of kind of Vegas falling.
And he used that kind of in Dawn of the Dead back in the 2005, which is great. It works then, it works now. Like I agree with you. Like that was great. And then I will just say on that thing, he loved his fucking scene where they were like they're all shooting zombies and they're walking in like the Avengers circle around all the characters, and it's like no wait, this is just a mind palace thing. I'm like, this is stupid. Why did you hype us up for these shots?
Yeah, all heist movies have to kind of give you like that that little preview of how it should go because it's not going to go right. But anyway, so you're setting up like this somewhat real grounded world. There is no conceivable reason a bank vault in Vegas would have blow darts, would have a wall that smashes you. I don't remember what the second
It was
thing
guns.
was.
It was just guns. So the first one was blow darts.
Okay,
the second one was the machine guns, and then the third one just smashes you.
It's just bits. I'm not saying that you can't do that, but if you do that, go all in. Make this movie the wackiest, silliest, weirdest thing ever, and include all of that stuff. You can pull off. You can make blow darts work going to a bank vault, right? If that's the tone of your movie. But the movie's just so overly serious at times, right? It's just so dramatic when it's just we just saw blow darts. Come on, you've already lost it. And then these little Easter eggs that Snyder thinks that he's crafting this amazing zombie verse that's going to rival his Snyderverse. He's building this intricate web that is going to be all over Netflix and people are going to fall in love with it. And he does it with these really weird choices of oh, guess what? When they're going to kill one zombie, it's going to have blue eyes. And then if you blink for a second, you might miss the metal face. And it's just like...
It's a robot.
It's like, wait, is that a robot?
It is.
But you would expect that to be touched on again, right? Like let's say an after credit sequence,
so,
like maybe even just a blueprint of the zombie. And I know I did read online that it's supposed to be like, you know, a government surveillance robot that may or may not pop up in like an animated series, but like that's not how you add seeds, right? You don't add a seed to your movie that looks like it may have been a mistake, because like he likes to add so much visual flair to his movies. Like I just thought like the blue-eyed zombies were just like, oh, I guess just some of the alphas have blue eyes. So it's just like you're not even doing this part correctly.
Let's not even talk about when I saw them for the first time. Like, oh, those zombies are probably the nighttime zombies, right? Like the ones that see in the dark with the blue eyes. Mm-hmm. Because the king zombie is pulling out, is it like a glowing blue fetus out of his deceased zombie wife's body? Mm-hmm. I'm like, are the zombies going to have babies? What is this stuff? Like, I agree. Like, he sets up all this bullshit, and you're like, what is this?
Yeah.
Oh, it was nothing. Move on.
And also at the very beginning, when they first walk into Vegas with the coyote, they mention like, oh yeah, all of these zombies come back to life when they get wet. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's a cool thing to bring up. I love the foreshadowing. I'm expecting to see this later. Yeah. And then it just doesn't happen. Now, like, you can like say you can establish like this type of lore and stuff, but you can't just say it. You actually got to do it, because like we just said earlier, like the normal person off the street doesn't know AT&T owned Warner Brothers. The normal person off the street doesn't know that this is spinning off into all of these other franchises and sequels. Well, and
even if it did, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about these characters of this world enough to go like, oh, I'm going to go watch the prequel to this to see how Vegas became this way. Kind of, right? Like they did that enough in that montage scene that I don't need to go back and watch it to learn why there are robot zombies.
Yeah. And also, like, even if your rules are silly, you got to follow your own rules, right? We saw multiple times how long it takes for somebody to transition into a zombie. Like, every zombie show, you know, follows their own rules. Like The Walking Dead, any other zombie movie I've ever watched, it's very consistent because you have to know what the stakes are. Oh, if you get bit, like, how long is this going to happen? But then the dude at the end of the movie crawls out of the vault. He's been bit. He gets a fucking private plane. He's like driving all over the country. He's flying to like New Mexico or wherever he's going. I don't even remember.
Mexico.
And like he hasn't transformed yet, and it's just like, I'm sure some nerd out there or Zack Snyder will go on Vero and say like, oh, well, the reason he didn't change was the nuclear fallout slowed his transition.
How long was he in there to be able to walk out of there with nuclear fallout?
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like, I get it that there are explanations for every question that I have, but when you're crafting a movie, when you're crafting a franchise, like, these are things that you can't gloss over, which honestly goes back around to this is why Snyder never should have been in charge of the DCEU. Like, I'm just gonna take it back around to like the Snyderverse, because like on Twitter I saw Zack Snyder trending this weekend, and the super fans of Zack Snyder drive me absolutely crazy. They think he is on the biggest hot streak ever right now. They think that he's made the best movies of all time. They think Army of the Dead is a masterpiece, unrivaled. It's just like, I don't want to like be like a snob and say go watch some real cinema, but you people, you need some other benchmarks for quality, right? Like, I'm not saying you can't enjoy Zack Snyder's stuff, but do not pretend that he's making some of the best stuff ever made. Like I said, I don't think I'm as hard on this specific movie, but because I had a decent time. I didn't have to pay to watch the movie. I was disappointed by the ending, but I've been disappointed by other endings before, But it's just like, if you're gonna put all this work into it, like, I don't know, I'm just kind of like, I do it a little bit better. That's all I'm asking for. So I don't know. I got triggered by all the discourse on the internet this weekend. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, I actually did all our show notes while watching this, because I could literally predict every character fell into an archetype of something predictable, right? As soon as they have what the hell was his name? Theo Rossi, right, as the creepy security guard. I'm like, oh, okay, she's gonna. As soon as he shows up, I'm like, oh, I bet he turns into a zombie and she kills him later. Well, guess what? He was hired. I was like, and they're gonna hire him to be the bait. Literally take him in. They shoot him in the leg, use him as bait, and then she kills him at the end of the movie.
It took me forever to realize like where that guy was from, and I was like, oh, it's Shades from Luke Cage. I was like, oh, that's Shades.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, he's playing a sleazeball, and yep, it's like everything was so predictable. I'm like, everyone's gonna die down the road. I looked at the one girl played by Ana de la Regua, who played Maria, and I was like, hey. She's attacked by zombies. He should shoot her gas tank. 10 seconds later, guess what he did? He shot her gas tank. I'm like, this is the most predictable zombie film ever. And then there's that weird scene in the basement with like, oh, that's our future body. Like that's our bodies from another timeline thing.
Yeah, that was so like, I mean, that kind of goes down the pipeline of saying just like, if you want to make like this goofy movie where characters get really, really meta and you're seeing like these weird things, like make that your movie. But it just seems so weird and out of place. Like, what are you going to do? Like, is your franchise going to move into like a weird like metaverse? And it's just, man, it's crazy. Yeah, it's just it's weird. Not in a good way.
Well, I think this movie is this is a base concept, right? This is what you write down on a napkin at a restaurant when you're talking with your friends or whatever, or like, you know, yeah, we had a meeting. This is what you get up. There's no trying. Everything here has been done before, and that's why it's so disappointing to me to I could literally not watch it, do our show notes, and still predict what was happening next because it was that bland.
Yeah, I'll give you this. Zack Snyder has great ideas, for sure. I mean, the whole idea behind his, like, Snyderverse of, like, aging up all of the characters, the Batman that we meet has already been Batman for a while, so you get to kind of tell this, like, unique story from that angle. I love the ideas, but wow, the execution is so poor across the board. And I mean, like, this was, for me personally, this was Snyder's chance to redeem himself in my mind, right? You know, this is your movie from top to bottom. You're at Netflix. I'm sure that he got very minimal feedback for his film because it's over 2.5 hours long, right? This movie's way longer than it needs to be. So I was like, all right, Snyder, you're literally in charge of everything on this movie. Let's see what you got. I don't want to say it's like, oh, it's not for me, it's just not my taste. This is not an effective movie. Like, I think even people that really, really like Zack Snyder and his type of films will agree that the ending was not satisfying, right? I mean, even with like the weird kind of like post-credit scenes, like, there could be more story to tell, but this on its own as a movie, I don't think you could say it's like satisfying.
Well, I'm sitting there like the end of the movie. I'm like, oh, they're all happily reunited. Why are they sitting there smiling at each other, not getting the goddamn helicopter? Because they know a nuke is coming, not because there's zombies behind them. And they're like, oh, the zombies behind him. He's going to jump into the chopper. Like, everything was so bad and stereotypical, and just ruined any hope it had for being unique throughout the whole thing. I was going to say there was one thing that really bothered. Like, I brought it up out loud while I was writing the show notes. I was like, how did the chopper not get to that other building faster than a zombie who had to go down the elevator, get on a horse, ride across? Like, how? What is the time frame of getting across fucking Las Vegas in this movie?
Yeah, I saw some of that. One thing that I will give this a pass on, because just because normally this is something that I don't think about the mechanics of, so it doesn't bother me so much. Of a lot of people online brought up the fact that, like, what was it, $200 million, like, is a lot of money. It weighs a lot. There's no way you could have fit it in that helicopter with all of those other people. Like, there's no way you could just, like, physically, like, move it. So don't think that I'm just, like, this super over-analytical guy that can't enjoy anything. I can totally ignore that. I can even ignore, like, the nuclear fallout, right? Because to me, the nuclear fallout is almost kind of like how, like, oh, you know, guns with silencers still make noise, right? You know, it's just like, it's a movie. I can deal with the idea that, like, they need a big bomb that doesn't have all of these like weird side effects that you don't want to worry about. So
and of course it knocked down the building low enough into the ground where this vault was. He could just open the vault and walk away.
Yeah, that's true. And also I just kept thinking, like, you need a nuclear bomb to kill these zombies. Like, if they don't have the mechanics to get out of Vegas, right? Just like, I don't know, napalm it, right? Or just like shoot it with normal bombs that you don't have to like.
Not to get...
and also reminds me, I have to say, I don't want to forget this. I do not understand the refugee plotline at all.
Right.
Like, I think they're trying to hint at that, like, oh, they can't leave the border of the city because they may or may not be infected. But why would you have all of these people, especially like, you know, police officers and volunteers, literally right outside the gates? Wouldn't the encampment, like, maybe technically, you know, you don't want to integrate these people with society because, you know, they might get people infected, but wouldn't you like at least be like a mile down the road in like an isolated camp that you couldn't easily just be like, oh yeah, the wall next to my tent is a freight cargo thing, and on the other side is like a zombie, right? You know, it was just a weird storyline to try to add in. Like, I feel like Hollywood does not know how to properly tell a refugee story, so there's like they just like tack it in, and it was just really weird.
I still don't know why her one friend went back in with the other two people. Do you know why they went back in? Gita?
Because there was like one line, it was easy to miss it. They wanted to crack open a slot machine so they could use that money to bribe the people at the refugee camp to let them out. And I just kept thinking, like, what a shitty refugee camp. Like, the purpose of this camp is to keep the infection from spreading over the entire world, but you can get out of it just by bribing some people. Like, it weirdly felt locked down. Like, it really felt locked down and, like, not locked down, right? Like, why did they need... why did Dave Bautista need his daughter to bust them in when as soon as they got in, they just stood around outside like nobody was watching them, right?
It was very easy to get in there.
Yeah, they weren't being like secretive at all. Like, they did not need that bust to get in, like, right? And like as
are there not cameras? Like, what? Like, it's modern day, right? Like, you think they put cameras to monitor this?
Yeah, I mean, just parachute in, right? I mean, like, we've seen so many, like, really cool, sick, like, helo jumps in different movies and stuff, and they talked about, like, how, oh, they might be monitoring air traffic, but, like, I don't know, like, do like a helo jump, land directly on top of the building you need to land on, you'll be right by the helicopter, go down the steps, I mean, you'll be in and out, and you'll actually get the job done, you know?
The airspace is restricted, but going out, it's not.
The bus space isn't restricted, that's for sure.
Like,
the bus got in very easily.
You can fly in, but you can't fly out, kind of thing. I'm like, that's... Or you can't fly in, but you can fly. I don't... There's a lot of loop... I mean, it's not sit here and nitpick this movie. I mean, my view is you give it a C, I give it a D. Like, this is barely passing. Yes, it's a movie. Yes, it's on Netflix. You didn't have to pay for it, but it also gives me confirmation. I'm like, I'm glad I don't have Netflix because I don't want to fund this kind of junk anymore. But, like, I just... It's a half-ass plot with half-developed characters, filmed by a man who shouldn't have a camera in his hands.
Chris, half-developed characters. Didn't you learn that Dave Bautista liked lobster rolls? I mean, that was his whole character arc, right? He didn't know what he wanted to do as a profession, and by the end of the movie, he knew it was going to be a food truck with lobster rolls. I mean, stupid. So stupid.
Was it his family who got crushed by the dropping container at the beginning?
I think so.
And then he had to kill his second wife, who was that girl's mom, by stabbing her in the head.
Oh, I guess I didn't think about that. Yeah. I guess this is the double-edged sword of an opening montage, right? You can only get so much information across. I thought it was going to be like his. I thought for a while that the daughter was like a niece or something, right? Yeah. Because I was like, oh yeah, we saw somebody get crushed, right?
Yeah, and he had a picture of them in like that whole like. We're doing like portraits of heroes here kind of thing.
And also, I can believe Dave Bautista, the huge yoked dude with all of this equipment and guns, and we saw him in the opening montage. I could imagine this dude like headshotting zombies like crazy, but his daughter gets a gun and headshots literally every single alpha zombie that's coming down the hallway, right? And we never get any backstory. We never get any information that
how big's that clip?
She can wield a gun. that well. It's just like, I'm not saying that she can't be an empowered character and like kick ass, but like you basically portray her as this helpless nobody, and then when she has this really awesome moment, you don't even linger on it for a second. Like nobody even like looks at her and goes like, oh wow, that's really good shooting. And also, if you can shoot that good, like shoot the zombie that has the helmet on in the eyeball, right? Like you were hitting him square in the forehead, but you obviously see he's wearing a metal plate on his head. Shoot him in the eye. Like I just,
or
I
the
don't know.
neck.
I guess that's where I get not fun at parties or whatever.
I would say, I mean, this isn't something I'd recommend. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, by a long shot. Again, it's nothing against Zack Snyder. I think as a film, it just doesn't hold up to anything I would watch or think. I think there are better zombie films out there. I think he's done a better one. Watch Dawn of the Dead. I really think you'll have a better time with it than this. And you know, that's literally set inside a mall for the whole movie. So, yeah, I thought Vegas would be way more fun, but the fun part of Vegas with the zombies was blown up in the first montage. So the rest really wasn't there for me, you know? Like, it didn't feel like it was... Like, yeah, it was in Vegas, but it didn't have, like, the Vegas vibe kind of thing like I was hoping for. So, yeah, I don't know. I can't recommend this, Mike. I don't know about you. Well, you said you're easier than I am on it, but I can't, in good faith, tell someone to go watch this movie.
Yeah, I mean...
It's 2.5 hours, by the way.
Yeah, it's long. I think if it was shorter, it'd be easier to recommend, but, you know... Snyder, you didn't redeem yourself over here. I guess maybe I'll just go back and watch 300, and maybe I can remember a time when I liked Snyder's work.
Have you seen Dawn of the Dead, though, really?
No, I haven't,
Okay.
which I should, because I know Gunn wrote it.
Yeah.
So I might have a better time with that.
Yeah, I think you watch it and be like, oh, this is what he's capable of doing with zombies. This is more fun. So, yeah, I just... rather than beating a dead horse, which is literally in this movie, Mike, he wrote a zombie horse. I think we can just we can call it quits and move on to the end of the show.
Yep.
So people don't know what you're doing, how you're feeling. Where can they find you at?
Well, they can find me at Mike Royer Design on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and you can read my webcomics at pickledcomics.com. Chris, if people want to catch up with you, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Valdan87, or Twitter, Valdan, Valdan. Look forward to seeing you there. People know about the show, what we're doing, where they can listen to us next week when we're here again. Where can they find us at?
Well, all you have to do is visit superheroslate.com. That is the best place to find our show notes, right? So if you want to see that hilarious look of Impulse over at The Flash, that's in our show notes. I mean, we're just baiting you with that one. But you can also look at this promo of the Riddler if you want to see what he's supposed to look like. So head on over to superheroslate.com. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever else you love to listen to fine podcasts like ours. Please like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and you can get merch at superheroslate.com/store. We love hearing from you. Please reach out. How should we rename the quarantine stream
what we're watching
segment at the top of the show? I want to know what your ideas are. Reach out. Let us know. We love our super fans of the show. If you want to be a super fan of Superhero Slate, all you got to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, get vaccinated, and we will be here every week, baby.
That's right. We'll see you guys next week.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe.
Mystery flavor all the things.